Welcome to the Where Entrepreneurs Thrive podcast. I'm your host, Russ Nolting, and this is the podcast where we explore the stories, strategies, and secrets of entrepreneurs who are shaping the real estate industry. Each episode, we sit down with leaders and innovators and dive into their journeys, uncover what fuels their success, and discover how they've turned challenges into opportunities. Whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur or a seasoned pro, you're in the right place to get inspired to take your game to the next level. Today I'm in the studio with Lauren Weiss from iconic Colorado Home Group. Lauren, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Russ. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, let's start. Tell us a little bit about your journey, where you were before real estate, and what got you into real estate.
Well, I've had kind of a circuitous career path. I studied neuroscience in college, and then I became an acquisition merger finance broker, and I bought and sold companies for a little bit. And then I missed my soul, so I went and taught high school. I taught high school for a little while, and then I was just a stay-at-home mom for a while, and
I got to ask you, as a former teacher, what did you teach?
Oh, science.
Me too.
Awesome. Yeah,
Yep.
I taught all kinds of biology and a few random chemistry classes. How about you?
I taught, so back in the mid 90s, I took over a physics curriculum as it was moving from the old way of doing it late in high school to the new way of doing it in ninth grade.
Oh, yeah.
So I started the ninth grade science curriculum at a big private school in St. Louis, Missouri, and dealt with all the complaints. I lasted 4 years and then I was out of there.
I mean, that's good prep for real estate.
It's really good prep for real estate. And we still deal with the parents here, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh.
So neuroscience in college, buying, working with company acquisitions, teaching high school, and then on to parenting.
Yes. And I got into real estate because I had moved around a whole lot during that process, and
Yep.
I am a Colorado native, and I was really happy to be back in Colorado, and I wanted to stay here, wanted to raise my kids here.
Yep.
Knew I was going to be divorcing, and I needed something that I could support us with and still work out of my house. You know, my littlest was in diapers and crawling around on the floor at the time.
Wow.
So I needed to find a way to still be mom first.
Right.
Which I've fortunately been able to do.
And have you been, what part of Denver area do you live in?
I live up in the Conifer Pine area, up 285.
Have you been there the whole time that you've been in real estate?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Different house, but I was in Conifer before.
Right. Absolutely. So talk to me about a defining moment in your career. Like, a lot of people get into this business and they have like their early challenges, and some launch quickly. Have there been any defining moments in your career that kind of changed everything for you or changed the way you looked at real estate?
Boy, there have been a lot. That I've made a lot of mistakes and done a lot of things wrong. But I think, what it keeps coming back to, what I keep coming back to is real estate, like all things, is pretty simple. You find a couple of things that you're good at that have a return. And that's going to be different for everybody. It's always going to come back to lead generation, but it's going to be different for everybody. And you just keep doing that, and you build the system to make it more efficient. I'm kind of gradually putting in every year. I feel like I'm adding more systems and more processes to increase my efficiency, to get more time back. Honestly, I have to do more deals, but also to get more time. And I think it's very, very easy to spend all your time preparing to do something or to chase the next shiny thing.
Yeah.
But one of the books that has really affected me that I've read, I don't know how many times, it's called Essentialism. And it's, are you familiar with that one?
McKeon?
Yeah, I believe so.
I think so.
Yeah. But yeah, it's basically just all about how do you find that it's that 80-20 rule, right? Like
Yeah.
what's your 20% that's going to get you the 80% of your results?
Hmm.
And how do you simplify every part of your life for that?
Yeah. So in real estate, you mentioned like getting really simple with lead gen. Like, what's been your secret sauce? Like, what's your favorite method of lead gen? The one that makes the most sense for you?
So my favorite method of lead gen is not necessarily the one with the greatest return.
Hmm. All right.
I mean,
Yeah.
I love to do events. I love to, kind of be out and about in on real estate related ways. And that's my favorite way to do lead gen. I've picked up
Yeah.
people at the gas station and PTA meetings and everywhere. But the most effective lead generation for me, I think you and I talked last time I saw you. I have kind of a ridiculous morning routine and schedule.
Yeah.
But every day from 9 in the morning till 1:30 in the afternoon, you're going to find me just doing call blocks on a dialer. And it's going to be my database, it's going to be
Yeah.
expireds, it's going to be follow-up calls, but it's just continuing to just call people.
Yeah.
I do 3 to 500 dials every day.
Really?
Yep. Thank you,
So,
auto dialers.
pardon me?
Thank you, auto dialers.
Right, for sure. So, some people listening to this are starting to sweat thinking about the, TCPA rules and all that kind of stuff. Like, what do you do to keep yourself from getting in trouble with this?
So everybody who's in my database, I have permission to contact.
Hmm.
Um, and then everybody else, I use Mojo Dialer,
Yep.
and I pay for. I do a lot of circle prospecting, and I call expires on Mojo,
Yeah.
and so I'll pull an area, and they scrub it all
Yeah.
against the do not call list, and then
Yeah.
I'm dialing those.
Yeah.
Um, and you can also, in the unlikely event you do get somebody that says, "Oh, I'm not on the do not call list," you can go ahead and flag it. You apologize and you flag it in Mojo
Sure.
so that it doesn't go to the next person who's calling.
Right. Oh, I see. That's really convenient. So it helps it's kind of crowdsourcing the list.
Yes, and I just rely on the software. They compare it to the do not call list when they pull it, and then, in the
Yeah.
event, I've only had a couple times where I've called people and they said, "Oh, I'm on the do not call list."
Got it.
But you can flag them.
So you're putting your database in there, and how frequently, I'm curious, how frequently do you reach out to your database?
Um, Pretty frequently. I mean, I'm actually realizing I need to grow my database. My database is only about 3,000.
Mhm.
Um, and so I need to grow my database. I'm able to burn through my database on a dialer. Like I'll do the DTD2 system
Sure.
calls.
Yep.
And I usually do 4 letters a week. It usually takes me 2 days.
Got it.
So I'm actually getting through it about I'm calling people about every month and a half, something like that.
Uh-huh. So would you care to share like what a typical conversation might sound like? Because if you're getting um, if you're getting 6 to 8 calls in a year to your database, like some might think, gosh, what do you talk about all these times? So what do you do? Like, what's your strategy then?
Anything. Unpopular opinion, I don't really use scripts much.
Uh-huh.
Um, yeah, anything. Well, and I'm emailing and texting too, and that's all automated. But yeah, I just call and just, hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
I've made notes in my database.
Mhm.
Um, how are your kids? Don't you have one graduating high school this year? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, are you freaking out?
Yeah.
I don't. I'm not calling them about real estate.
Right. You're doing
And
it practical.
yeah, I mean, sometimes I am.
Right.
Sometimes I am. And after I've had, a few dozen conversations with them, sometimes I call them and I'm like, hey, I'm just calling because I need to sell some houses. So who needs to move this year?
Yeah.
I love you and I know I'm going to love your friends. So who do
Right.
I need to call?
Yeah. I love
And
it.
yeah, I don't, I would say almost avoid the scripts
Mhm.
if you can.
Yeah. I used to, for about 10 years, I officed next door to this guy. And he's one of the top agents in St. Louis, Missouri. And he always said, I don't have scripts. I don't use scripts. And he's very successful. But sitting next to him, with thin walls in our office, this guy always said approximately the same kinds of things. Now, they weren't like standardized scripts, but he knew what he was saying. And he was
Yeah.
extremely charming and folksy and casual about it. But, I remember calling him one day and saying, or walking over to his office and saying, you always brag about not being a scripted guy, but like I can almost tell you the next thing you're going to say when you're talking to your friends in your sort of sing-songy casual way.
Yeah.
Does that resonate with you at all?
Yeah, no, that definitely resonates. I mean, I say a lot of the same things. I think I just don't, and this feels Keller unpopular because we have the binders of this is what you say and we practice.
Right.
And there's definitely value in that for
Yeah.
sure. But I think as soon as you're saying the exact same thing word for word that somebody else is saying,
yeah,
it's going to get hung up on.
Like the script that I shared when I saw you in person a couple days ago for the expireds.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And what's funny about that is I share that because when back in the 07, 08, 09, 10 era, when I was calling expireds, that was my starting point. But then I got quickly away from it to what resonated with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I did when I didn't know what to say. But then once I kind of figured out what worked for me, it all evolved.
Well, and I think that, the cold calls where I'm circle prospecting or calling expireds, those are definitely more scripted.
Sure. Sure.
My thing with expireds is I always, they answer the phone and I always say, hey, I was just, I was in the MLS. I was looking at some properties for a client. I noticed that your house expired and I was really surprised. Why do you think it didn't sell?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And just get them talking,
Yep.
Well, and so I always start with the same script with expireds.
Yeah. I don't think I've shared this at that meeting that I saw you at recently, but I was expireds in database, and I called through my database 12 times a year, and it was always the same general idea. I sent them something in the mail or something in the email, and I would call and say, "Hey, Lauren, it's Russ over at Nolting Real Estate or Keller Williams, whatever. Did you get the thing I sent you?" Yeah. And you would say yes or no, and I would say, awesome. The thing I sent you or the thing that you opened was a discount for this service or that service. Do you want to use that service? And they would say yes, or usually they'd say no. And if they said no, anybody that would like to see it. And that's how I grew my database, was just by, adding to it with discounts with my lawn guy, discounts with my painter, discounts at a favorite restaurant, whatever it was. And so I think we all kind of have our own way of doing it. The magic is making the calls.
Right. I mean, consistency trumps motivation and talent all day long.
For sure. Absolutely.
And it's the hardest part.
Yeah, absolutely. We're doing a contest in the region among some of our team leaders, and it's how many times are you dialing your phone a day? Mm-hmm. So super simple. And some turn in 0. Oof. And I always think, like, for me, there can never be a day where there's a 0, because the day that there's a 0 attracts another 0, which attracts another 0. Like, even if it's 8:00 at night and you're about to go to bed and you realize, crap, I didn't dial anybody today, you dial somebody just so that you don't get a 0.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And we all have those days where you're like, okay, it's not happening today.
Yeah.
Drop the kids off and 30 minutes later the school calls and they're sick and whatever, like life happens. But it always comes back to like, okay, what is the one thing that I need to do today that I have to do no matter what?
Yeah, for sure. If somebody followed you around, Lauren, for the day, you'd be surprised to see.
I think they would be surprised to see how incredibly ADHD I am. And how much I have to police myself.
Yeah.
So when I'm doing those calls, I work in call blocks and I set timers.
Yeah.
And I literally, I get to the end of that timer, I have to get up and move around. I have to go do
Yeah.
other stuff. Um,
Yeah.
I I have the attention span of a Labrador Retriever, and I think that
Yeah.
would surprise people.
Do you find a certain amount of time on lead gen works best for you?
Yeah, so what I'm doing right now, I'll be honest, I fell off the wagon with
Yeah.
it. I was doing it instead of doing it 5 days a week, I was doing it 2 or 3, and I was
Yeah.
kind of sporadic and just was feeling off. Before that happened, I do a 90-minute block, and then I take a break, and I do a 90-minute block, and then take a
Yeah.
break. And I'll usually do 2 or 3 of those a day.
Yeah.
Um, and then I kind of fell off the wagon, and it's that I can't focus thing. So now I'm
Mhm.
doing 30-minute sprints
Yeah.
with a 5-minute break instead of a longer break. And
Interesting.
I'll work back up to 90, but a
Yeah.
lot of it's just me sitting still for that long is hard.
Do you know our former CEO, Mark Willis?
I know of Mark Willis. I don't know Mark Willis.
So Mark was our CEO from like, I don't know, '05 to 15, and then
Mhm.
again from 20, whatever it was, 20, 24 in 24. Um, During that time period where he wasn't our CEO from 2015 to 20 end of 2023, he got into this like deep study of lead generation and motivation and performance. And he actually studied the like what he was trying to ask the question like what's the right amount of time for lead gen. And his research, I don't know, his research says 45 minutes on, 15 minutes off, 45 minutes on, 15 minutes off is like the ideal amount of time. I don't know what, I haven't read the science behind his thing, but he spent a bunch of time studying that and found that 45 minutes was like an ideal like sprint
Mhm.
and then 15-minute break. So I don't know, maybe it's worth trying.
Yeah, maybe it's worth trying. Yeah, I feel like I definitely had to work up to 90-minute
Yeah.
blocks.
Yeah.
So
So
I started smaller.
yeah, sure. So you've mentioned a bunch of things about habits and mindset, and I wonder any particular habit or mindset that has been most impactful for your success in real estate.
I am a huge mindset person.
Hmm.
Uh, and in fact, you and I were talking about I keep saying I want to start a podcast. I don't want to start a
Yeah,
real estate podcast. I want to start a business mindset podcast.
yeah,
Um, but so mindset is huge. Mindset is everything, and I'm constantly working on that.
mhm,
I am a morning weirdo. I get up at 4:30 in the morning, and I have a
yeah,
ridiculous morning schedule.
yeah,
So I get up and, take care of the dogs, that kind of thing, start some coffee.
yeah,
I do gratitude journal. I do a little bit of journaling. Usually read a chapter of whatever I'm reading in mindset or business book. Um, and then I meditate every morning.
uh-huh,
Um, and kind of do my thing. Then of course, go get the kids off to school and do all of that stuff. But
yeah,
I feel like I've done half my day before I
yeah,
start. And it makes a huge difference. It
yeah,
makes such a huge difference.
yeah. I'm the same way. I get up at 4:30, and if I don't like tick certain boxes of things that I get done, like I just showed you my dog, he's around here somewhere, like, you know, my dog's awake with me. We have our little, dog dad time, uh, something spiritual, something mental, take a walk or go to the gym, whatever. Um, if I don't get those things done, I'm a wreck.
Yeah, yeah, me too. Me too,
And
yeah.
because of my travel schedule, like I've often taking like the 5:30 St. Louis to Denver flight. And when that happens, like I get up at 3:30 so that I can at least get 30 minutes before I jump in the shower and I mean, I dashed to the airport. I can be at the airport parked and through security and get that all done in about an hour and 20 minutes, including the drive from my home. But I live in a simple place. But I get up extra early then, because if I don't do those things, like my day is terrible. Like the day I saw you on Monday, that's what I did. I woke up at 3 and jumped in the shower at 3:30 and was out the door at 4 for a 5:15 flight.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. If I don't meditate, and we also we have chickens and ducks and things. I live on an
yeah,
acreage. So if I don't meditate and I don't get out and I spend, 10 minutes just watching the chickens scratch the ground, I'm like a wreck the rest of the
yeah,
day. It's like
yeah,
that's kind of my time to just focus,
yeah.
and
Get
it's
it.
amazing what a difference it makes.
Lauren, if you could give your younger self a piece of advice, what would that piece of advice be?
Oh my God. Um, don't be so stupid. Um, I am not sure. I think the biggest thing, and the thing that I find myself always telling my kids, the little thing that we always say around here is whatever you believe you create.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is no ceiling, and
Right.
you can manifest and create anything that you want. You can't just sit around wishing for it. You have to put in the work. But there's no ceiling on what you can do. There's no limit to what you can
Yeah.
accomplish. You just have to believe it and make the decision.
Yeah. I love that. Any book or podcast or resource that you've found really helpful for you in your journey as an agent and as a human being?
Whew. Well, so I'm a huge Chris Voss person.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Never Split the Difference is my Bible.
Yeah.
He just wrote a new one that I just read recently, that's Empathy in Business, or Empathy and Understanding in Business, or something like that. It's great. Um, and so that's always good in the real estate land.
Yeah.
The book I'm reading now, I'm going to totally get the title wrong, but it's 101 essays to change the way you think, and
Really.
it's fantastic. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's really fantastic. Um, yeah, I'm a huge book nerd.
Yeah. Um, I talked to Chris Voss's people about coming to our event in Vail in September.
Okay, well, I'll be there then.
Well, he's not coming, but we have a scheduling conflict, but but he's one of my favorites too. I think his I think Never Split the Difference it's fascinating and it's brilliant and it works in business. It also works with your kids,
Oh yeah, it
you
works in
know,
there.
like my favorite thing to say to my 4 kids is from Chris Voss, and it's one of his negotiation tactics. When you get a bad offer or a bad counter offer, you respond back something to the effect of, "How am I supposed to accept that?"
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Exactly.
When my son says to me a couple of days ago, "I need to be, I'd like to stay out until 2, Dad."
How old is
How am I
he?
supposed to accept that? He's 17. How am I supposed to accept that? And then just and let him back it off until 12:30. But
There you go. Yeah. No, if you haven't read the new one yet, it's a good one.
I will check that out. Empathy in Business, and 101, was it essays on?
101 essays to change the way you think.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, the empathy and understanding in business is cool because it kind of builds on Never Split the Difference, and it comes. The thing that I love about Chris Voss is he can take that empathetic side of, like, we. I'm not a big fan of the, like, everybody wins, win-win situation, but you can take that information, utilize it, maybe even not to the other party's advantage, but in such a way that they still thank you at the end.
Right.
They still feel good about it.
Yeah.
And that's what's really great about his new book.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in our business, sometimes what seems to be a loss is indeed a win.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes selling the house, but not selling it for as much as you had hoped to get it sold for, is still accomplishing your goal.
Right. And I think that's the biggest thing, is figuring out what the goal is. I have struggled with that as an agent sometimes, because I'm very determined to, get a certain price for my client or whatever. And at the end of the day, if that's the house they want, that's the house they want.
Mhm.
And so, we'll get the deal done. And I'm like, man, that was terrible. I didn't get that for as cheaply as I wanted to for you,
Yeah.
or I didn't get quite as much as I wanted to for you. But at the end of the day, we still won.
Right. And I think when we look back, I was driving somewhere with my wife, and we were trying to remember how much we paid for all the houses that we've bought in our lives. And
Mhm.
we've lived in a bunch of houses, and we couldn't come up with one price. And and the point is, we got what we wanted, we lived where we wanted, we enjoyed what we had. And
Yeah.
did we make 10,000 less than we expected to, or $100,000 more than we expected? I don't know,
Yeah,
but we were
exactly.
happy.
Exactly. And that's, yeah, it's really important, I think, to take that step back and
Yeah.
realize, what is the big win in life too, not just in business.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Lauren, anything else that is on your heart that you'd like to tell our audience or share about your business before we wrap?
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, well, the standard share, I offer great referral fees and can always take your clients. Um, but, uh, I think the biggest thing is, if you come from a place of service,
Hmm.
run it like a business, and you keep yourself accountable, it's it's hard to fail.
Yeah.
It's hard to fail.
Yeah. I love that. Um, what's the perfect referral look like? Where are they looking to buy or sell? And then how can people get a hold of you?
Oh, perfect. So buyers or sellers, I'm building out my luxury business more this year.
Hmm.
So, I'll take whatever, but I'll be really honest. I kind of prefer somebody who's at least over 800,000.
Hmm.
Um, West side suburbs of Denver and foothills, Golden, Evergreen, Littleton, and Metro Denver or
Yeah.
Boulder. Um,
Got it.
Best way to get a hold of me is my direct mobile. It's 720-485-1500.
Okay.
Um, you can stalk me online. My website is iconiccoloradohomes.com. Uh,
Nice.
and Instagram is Colorado Real Estate Ninja. Facebook is Lauren Weiss Realtor.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lauren. Appreciate you being on the podcast.
Thanks, Russ.
All right. Take care.
You too.